Hello and welcome to One on One. I'm Vernon Ramesar, and I'm very pleased to say my guest today is Professor Benny Gomes, who's the head of the Academy of the Performing Arts at UTT. Benny, welcome to. I've known you for so many years, and of course,
quite some time. Yes.
I didn't even know you were a professor, but now I know. Much less in charge of UTT's Academy of the Performing Arts. A pretty important position, I guess, nationally in terms of its impact on young people.
Well, it's a good training ground for 350 students now and counting. Yeah.
Now, obviously, you're. Anybody who even knows anything about theatre and productions in Trinidad and Tobago, you're of course the preeminent lighting person in the nation, and I understand you were busy abroad as well. You've done a couple of high-profile things.
Yes, did a few things, as we were talking a little bit before.
Yeah, in case people don't think UTT has some real professionals, we can explain that you have actually done things outside UTT.
Yes. Most recently was I did both inaugural ceremonies for the inauguration of Barack Obama. That was at the White House, of course, and the home state ball for the first inaugural
which is pretty
ceremony.
impressive.
Yes.
How do you get a gig like that? I guess you have a reputation.
The agents and through the affiliation to the union that I'm a member of, the local 829.
And you had a hand in the Olympics as well in
Beijing? Yes, I did have some production management in Beijing, and I was part of the lighting team for the London Games.
Wow. Yes. So with that impressive list of credentials behind you, you've embarked on something that perhaps may not be quite as global in its scope, but certainly UTT is celebrating 10 years, which kind of shocks me. It seems like just the other day UTT started, but it's 10 years already. And part of the celebrations, you'll be hosting an Indian cultural evening in collaboration with the Indian High Commission.
With the Indian High Commission, yes. This is a bit of a concert post Shivratri celebrations. So those of you who are going to be taking part in the celebration and that moment of bliss following, this concert is geared specifically for devotees of Shiva. We will be having our very own Dr. Malik, and she will be doing a Shiva mantra to open the production. And she's always extraordinary. She's a magical performer. She's part of that. We will also have performers from the Mahatma Gandhi Institute, their vocalists and some of their musicians as well, and dancers, and a combination of their work with UTT faculty as well.
So it's a way also of showcasing some of the things that UTT is doing in terms of performing arts.
That's correct.
How do you narrow it down? Because I mean, you've got all these different sort of fields.
It's covering some music, instrumental music. Mr. Shivanand Maraj will be doing some of the work on violin and some other instruments. Rana Mohib, he will. What's his name? Patasar will be doing some of the songs in Urdu, their love songs, and also on tabla would be Mr. Jitendra Swain from the Mahatma Gandhi Institute as well. We also have Sita recitals by Dr. Shada Patasar. She's recently received her doctorate from UTT a couple months ago. And in our own department of Indian classical music, well, of course, we've got Rana and Susan Mohib. She will be doing some Kathak dance. We have Mondira Balkaran Singh, who has recently joined us in the area of Odissi. So we have that. And from, again, the Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mrs. Arti Natu, who will do a piece of Bharatnatyam.
Well, I would go for Mandira alone, but I'm kind of biased when it comes to that kind of thing.
But it will be a very exciting evening.
Who exactly are you catering to? Is it for the student body or for their family and friends, or is it just the public in general?
The public in general, certainly those who have just come out of the festival itself, and of course to the students. And there's always the program. We have the Indian classical program in dance as well as in voice. To drum up support for that program as well, because we will be taking another intake of students come September.
Now we should mention this is happening in South Trinidad.
Yes, this is going to be at Sapa in the main auditorium on Friday evening at 7 o'clock.
Well, it's nice for a change, because so often any sort of big cultural event takes place in North Trinidad, and people from South Trinidad who are interested in culture have to make the drive or trek, but it's nice for them, for a change, to be able to
Yes.
be in their own environment. If we go from Port of Spain to have the joy of driving south
Yes,
for a little
yes. And it is a very nice auditorium as well. The acoustics are very, very good.
How's the lighting, Benny?
The lighting, the equipment is very good. I think there's a lot of it. I wish I could have more opportunities to work in the SAP auditorium.
Do you actually get hands-on with a production like this? Do you sort of get back into the lighting mode? Or?
Oh, totally, yes. And in this particular event, one of my students is also going to be helping us with this. So we're also training students in the design area, scenery, costumes, lighting, sound.
Now, you mentioned the fact that you've got over 300 students in the academy. Are you surprised by the reception?
Absolutely. Every day, every time I walk in there every morning, you have parents who are encouraging their students to, or their sons and daughters to come to us for professional theatre training. What seems to have changed is that paradigm where, it was the doctor, lawyer, banker syndrome, and that's all you could study. And now it amazes me every day that we have this many students who want to be professional performers.
And the fact that they can actually do it in an academic context.
Yeah.
I mean, before you could perhaps pick up some acting tips by sort of hanging around with theatre companies and hope that perhaps somebody from overseas was visiting, perhaps. Yeah. But this is a formal sort of acting workshop training. You've got dance. You've got all the elements.
Conservatory type training. Yeah. So they have classical Indian, as well as the ballet, of course, and contemporary. So we have that, and of course folk dance, traditional folk dance of the Caribbean. In terms of acting, that is headed up by Belinda Barnes. We have a great faculty in acting. In music, again, it's an extensive faculty of performers and educators. And in the PAN, we have a terrific faculty as well. Leon Edwards, Smooth Edwards from All Stars. We have Len Bugsy Sharp from Phase 2. We have the very best PAN faculty. Sion Gomes.
So do you think there's actually been a change in the way that, I imagine parents have at least some input into what their kids choose to do. Has there been a change in attitudes, like genuinely, that people will regard the arts as a serious profession that you can go into?
Oh yes, a complete shift, which is wonderful compared to maybe 10 years ago when it was just not that at all. And the particular kind of training program that we have put together ensures that the students take an internship, so that they do get professional work and they're paid to do performances, things like that. This will be our first graduating year come May, when our first BFA students will graduate. We've had students graduate out of the artist diploma already, certainly, and the Indian classical certificate in music as well.
I guess there must be a concern on your part, certainly, that there is viable employment for these young people when they do graduate, or if they don't decide to go for further studies, which I guess is also a possibility. Has our society reached a point where we can sustain full-time performing artists? Oh,
absolutely. And not just in Carnival. Carnival is a huge supporter, financial support for that medium. But you have, just looking at the region, there is a Carnival somewhere in the Caribbean every month, sometimes twice. So, you have that part of it, and certainly there's always the advertising. They're always looking for performers, writers, designers.
And in terms of the Indian performing arts, I think that's a really interesting phenomenon over the last couple of decades, hasn't it? It used to be sort of a niche thing that people in the Indian community would appreciate. Then all of a sudden it started coming onto the national stage. I guess perhaps when Mr. Pandey won the election, I think that's, some experts have pointed to that as a major breaking through point. But now it is considered, as well it should be, just as part of our integrated national culture, isn't it?
And it's part of the training in the dance, because all the students are exposed to the four facets of dance: the modern, the contemporary, the two streams of Indian, and folk, but traditional.
So once somebody's doing dance, they will have to take Indian dance as part of that.
Part of it.
Which I guess makes our sort of UTT program unique,
It's
perhaps.
very unique, and it's different to what you would receive from BFA training, say in New York, at Juilliard, but it's patterned along the same lines of the way Juilliard works, or the way a school in London is set up in terms of music, things like that. So it's the same international training that you would receive, but there is a heavy local content as well.
How far can somebody go academically now in terms of the performing arts? Is it just a BFA that you get, or can they go further?
The BFA here at the Academy at the moment, at some point in the future, we will be adding on the master's degree. Currently, there's a Master of Carnival Arts,
Right.
but not a Master of Fine Arts. We offer a Bachelor of Fine Arts.
But if somebody, for example, one of your graduates for this current batch graduates, can they, using their UTT degree, go to further their studies in the arts?
Oh, absolutely.
Anywhere
Yes,
internationally?
and several of them already applying to different universities. Some in the diploma have gone directly onto other bachelor's programs. There's one of the students in the diploma went on to that jazz program in Boston, and we have 2 dance students right now who are applying to the University of Illinois, which is one of the top 3 dance programs on the planet. So they're doing extremely well, and they're connected through the faculty as well. The faculty, through our own connections, our professional work, we hook them up pretty nicely.
I guess one good thing about the performing arts as a profession, if a young person is looking at what life path they want to choose, is that it is highly transportable. If you choose to decide you don't want to live in Trinidad for a little bit, you want to try.
Right.
Performing arts is something that translates everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
In any culture, there's always
And
a
the
demand.
particular kind of training that we're getting here, because they're always interested in some, I don't want to use the word exotic, but that's the kind of training that we empower the students with. Because as one of the dancers said, I'm taking the Kathak dance and the Odissi dance because it's an extra card in my back pocket.
Just so I'm sure they can do that, but I can also do this.
I can also do this, yes.
Now, in terms of this cultural evening that's coming up on Friday at 7 p.m. at SAPA, how did the Indian High Commission get involved? Was it that they approached UTT, or did UTT approach them, or did
Well, we've had a long history with the High Commission, the previous High Commissioner, and now we have the current. So it's just a continuation, really, of a good collaborative set of work with the High Commission.
Now, I know Malay Mishra was very, himself, the former High Commissioner, was very, very interested in the arts personally, and he really pushed for it. Was that helpful to UTT in terms of how you've shaped your programs? Or
yes,
inputs?
and not just the Academy for the Performing Arts. We have input from them on the Fashion Academy as well, and some other downstream things coming up in terms of engineering, things like that. So
there is an ongoing kind of synergy between the Indian High Commission and our various education institutions and UTT. Now, on the evening, are you trying to showcase a combination of student work and some of your teachers' work?
Yes, it will be a combination of students and faculty, and both faculties of the Mahatma Gandhi and the UTT Academy as well.
And in terms of, if somebody, as you mentioned, was celebrating Shivratri, observing Shivratri, and they went to this evening, it's not going to be a jarring evening of jump and wave, which
no.
Which I think is interesting, because it's happening right before, happening Carnival
it's going
weekend,
to be quite a juxtaposition of what's in the air, but still connected to the whole business of Shivratri, which we're just about to start today.
But it must have been a kind of a difficult decision, knowing that everybody's in this kind of carnival mode, to choose this particular Friday.
A very brave decision.
Right.
To do this at this time, but I think that there are always people who don't want to particularly go into the Port of Spain carnival fever, and want to have something else to go out to. So it's
so
just
in a sense, maybe it actually is good timing, because it means that some people, for example, I don't know, me, who just can't take all the constant noise and everything and want to get away and have something a little more cultural in a different sort of form, can go to SAPA and appreciate this. But in terms of the price of admission to come into these...
Well, this is free and open to the public.
Well, I mean, you can't get a better deal than that, can you?
It's absolutely
but how
great deal
how
at
people
this
get
time.
Tickets, though? Do they just contact or do they just show up at the door?
They can show up at the door, or they can also ring at the Academy for Arts, Letters and Public Affairs, Cultural Public Affairs, and collect an invitation there as well.
What's the seating capacity of SAPA?
SAPA is just around 700, approximately.
But you should be able to seat anybody who shows up.
Yes.
I guess the other worry would be if too few people show up, it'll be kind of not particularly nice or pleasant for the
I think whoever
students
shows
who are
up,
performing.
It's going to be a great. We always put on a great show, our best foot forward, and working with the Mahatma Gandhi faculty is always very, very interesting. Very interesting. Things happen on stage. I don't know if you were present at the last collaboration that we did, but where we had the contemporary dance dance teachers and the students work a piece in with the Kathak and Bharatanatyam classical dance. So a whole new fusion took place on stage, which was very, very, very exciting, and the audience was thrilled by it.
There's something about the stage, isn't there? I mean, you usually work behind the scenes. I don't recall ever seeing you actually performing.
No, I don't go on stage
never,
at
never
all.
been tempted to? Ever?
Once, a long time ago. I know where my place is. It's, behind the lights.
So you're behind the lights or behind the computer program that's operating the lights in some cases nowadays. But there is a certain energy that people who don't really go to live performances are missing out on, aren't they? Because, I mean, it's one thing to sit in a cinema and look at a film, but there is no connection with you and that screen.
Right.
Whereas there's a very real live connection between
There's a very
performers.
kinetic energy, and performers feed off that chemistry that's created between the proscenium arch, between you, the performer, and the person in the seat. And that energy goes back and forth all the time, and particularly so with Indian classical music. It just does a different thing. The vibration is very different. It's a little esoteric to sort of speak about that, but it's a very true and strong thing that you feel right inside.
I mean, and I think even though we're seeing some inroads in terms of public classical Indian dance performances, it is still something that a lot of people haven't been exposed to properly. I mean, if you tell somebody Indian dance, the first thing they think of is Bollywood dancing.
Right.
Or maybe some sort of chutney version of Bollywood dancing.
Popular Indian dance.
And yet there is so much beauty that is undiscovered in terms of classical Indian dance forms. And we've got some of the best
finest
in the world
yes.
in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, just in the dance alone, we'll have Mandira Balkaran Singh, Susan Mohip on the Kathak, and Atinatu from the Mahatma Gandhi Institute, and she's an incredible Bharatanatyam performer. Her eyes are so incredibly expressive, and the three of them together would also make some very interesting.
I mean, and looking at Mandira dancing is like poetry in motion, and it's the controlled movement, and then the fact that if you go to the trouble of actually reading up about the types of dance beforehand, you have a sense of the story that's being told and what the various movements mean. So that's a sort of an educational experience in addition to being entertainment.
There you go. And having worked with her too for many, many years on, I don't know how many productions I've lit for Mandira.
She obviously has a good budget.
Well, she treats me well.
So you've done Barack Obama and Mandira Balkaran.
There you go.
Yeah.
Two names right on the same sentence.
Do you think that in terms of UTT now having this training program where people can learn the performing arts in a professional way will elevate the tone of theatre in Trinidad and Tobago? Because you and I have been around a while. Yeah. You were around, certainly in the early 90s and late 80s, when there was just an explosion of theatre, whether it was good theatre or bad.
Yeah, there was a lot of it.
People would still go, but there was a lot of it. We tried things. There was a lot of risk-taking. Even if it didn't work, at least you knew they tried something different. And then over the years, it just kind of degenerated, and people only would go to the sort of predictable comedy farce things. And actual proper serious theatre became very thin on the ground. Do you think we'll see a revival?
Oh, absolutely. And because of the Academy, that is going to change. That paradigm shift is coming. If you look at the student performances now compared to 4 years ago, the ones that we're just about to put out the door, incredible. In fact, we have a production of The Maids coming up with the Carib next in March. So that'll be another conversation that we can have.
Which we'll have you on about,
But that series of productions are going to be equally exciting. It's The Maids, there's Coup and Calypsos, and that's coming from the acting area. We have the senior dancers are about to have their own showcase, followed by the end of semester concert as well in dance. And of course the music performances are going to follow that as well.
In terms of that sort of semi-drought we've been going through with theatre, was it because the theatre companies just lost interest because, I don't know, maybe they weren't getting the funding that they wanted, or was it that audiences just became very superficial and just wanted light-hearted entertainment?
I think because of what was happening in the country, crime and that rise in crime, things like that, people were not interested in heavy drama or wanted to have light entertainment.
It was just escapist entertainment.
Yes, and that sort of got in there, and it still is there. Not to discount it in any way, because it is work.
Well, there's room for it, but I mean,
but
it doesn't push the boundaries of anything, though.
Good theatre has always been around. The fine folks at Trinidad Theatre Workshop are always producing something that's very interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of what we would call traditional theatre happening once again.
Which I guess was the whole purpose behind UTT, which was to have something apart from UE, which is of course a Caribbean institution, to have a uniquely Trinidad and Tobago institution that could feed into our national needs for development in various areas.
Yes.
And it's highly significant, I think, to note that the performing arts was included as one of those areas.
Yes, the vision was impeccably thought through, I think. And not just for the performing arts. There's the Academy for Fashion, there's the Academy for Arts, Culture, Public Affairs, and Sport, and Leisure, I think it is, yes.
So, which are all feeding into national goals in terms of where we see ourselves developing into the future. So basically, you're aware as you're heading this academy that you kind of got the future in your hands. Oh, the stress.
The stress is there.
It's not just a bad lighting day.
Well, it's a different. UTT was created to really produce a different kind of national, and that the fruits of that experiment are happening as each graduating class is put out into the workforce.
Is it like a work in progress? So, I mean,
I think it is certainly, because it's a very young university. It's only 10 years old, and the academies are just about 4 years old. There we are. So it is a constant work in progress, and education is always a work in progress. You can't just sort of sit back and say, well, this works, because the economy changes, the people change,
methods change,
so you have to stay on top of it all the time. As an educator, you can't relax on that. You have to constantly re-educate yourself. I couldn't teach lighting design or sound design or whatever without keeping up with all the technology that changes every 6 months. You just have to stay on top of it to keep them informed of what's happening and put out a quality, a caliber student.
I think it's interesting that you're sort of heading it, because people might think, well, maybe a dancer should be heading it, or a carnival artist should be heading it, whatever. But the fact is that you, because of the nature of your work, which is lighting and sound, I guess, as well, you've seen every sort of production that's been done.
Yes, production people service all areas of performance.
So you're not limited.
It's music, dance, theatre, So I guess you say that assumption is correct, that somebody from production could head this department up.
I mean, you wouldn't normally think, well, somebody called Benny Gomes also knows quite a bit about Indian dance, because he's been sort of lighting it for so long.
Oh, for a very long time, yes.
Have you learned more as you've been in the position?
Yes. In terms of
the various disciplines that are being taught.
Oh, absolutely. Every day, especially in audio. We have the amazing Martin Raymond, who is also on that faculty, Yuichi Watanabe, who are some of the best audio engineers in the country. And the audio students are producing just amazing stuff. In fact, their senior projects, which are in the final stages, most of them are going to be producing CDs of very high quality. And that's another day.
and in terms of performance spaces, are we going to see an expansion in the number of performance spaces, or do we have enough for a small country?
I don't think that we have enough. We need more mid-size type houses. Like the Central Bank, 400 seats, 500 seats is more.
Where you can actually make money off of production. And not be sort of squandering with a lot of empty seats sitting around. Because
a big house is reasonably difficult to fill unless you have a spectacle, that you can fill those seats.
Well, you have a sort of a spectacle on Friday. We have to come back as we sort of run out of time here. And interestingly enough, you've got 700 seats to fill, I think you told me. And interestingly enough as well, they're free.
They are free, and we have some very wonderful guests who are coming. Caroline Sipasad Bechan from San Fernando, she's going to be there. And of course,
Public Administration,
Minister Douglas is also, he's the chief guest.
It being culture and all. Yes. And you've got Ira Matura as the MC?
Ira Matura is the Master of Ceremony, and she's always just a delight to work with.
So you've got an evening of different sort of performances, but all, I guess, with the common thread that they're respectful enough that following Shivratri, it wouldn't be sort of a jarring experience.
No. This is very restive and upbeat at the same time. It's not that you're going to be, it's not a lullaby. Although some of the love songs are quite nice, much of the excitement is in the music and, of course, the dance.
Was there any pressure to sort of make it a little less sort of a civilized evening? In terms of, people will say, well, chutney is wheating, and you should
No,
have a little in
no,
there.
no, not at all.
So there was no pressure in that area.
No. Well, based on what we're training the students to do.
It would be a bit incongruous as well, stuck in the middle there, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I don't know that it could fit in there, and certainly not with what the particular time that, post Shivratri. The thread of that particular production, the songs, the music, the dance is very pleasurable. It's not going to be.
There'll be no jumping and waving and whining down the place.
No, not in this one.
Which for people like me who can't do those things is actually a very, very good thing. So a reminder then that it's at Sapa this Friday.
Sapa this Friday, 7 o'clock sharp.
Which is Carnival Friday, we should point out. But if you want a little change, it's nice to go there, 7 o'clock sharp, an evening.
Even after the show, you could still go change shift gears.
If you really wanted to do that kind of thing after you sort of mellowed yourself out to put yourself through that. And tickets are free, which I think is remarkable. And you get to see some excellent performances by some of this country's preeminent performers. Benny Gomes, a great pleasure having you on the program. Wonderful seeing you after all this time.
All right.
Take care. You've been watching 1-on-1. Join us again tomorrow for another edition.